Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful day because we have a great show of Computer America planned for you, where in the second part of the program, we will have Dariush Derakhshani. He is our computer graphics expert. He's on a little early this month, so hopefully that won't throw you for too much of a loop. But when he comes on the program, we are going to talk about the recently announced, officially announced, 9th generation i9, and I think there's like a couple i7s and i5s that they benchmarked as well. But essentially the 9th generation CPUs from Intel. Also, we will be comparing those to the Ryzen CPUs. So if you have any kind of questions about kind of how those break down, this is a great show for you. Also, things like deepfakes and flying billboards and more. I mean, Dariush is just a lot of fun to talk to, so hopefully you can join us. But in the first segment here, we will be doing computer and technology news while we, of course, wait for him. Now, this is a segment dedicated entirely to the latest and greatest tech stories of the day that we feel you should know about. And of course, coming off of a weekend, this is a great time to do so. Now, a couple of things before we get started, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything for today's show, be it a link to any articles, videos, reviews, topics that we talk about. Everything will be right there in one place. Also, while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech. And on top of that, be sure to check out the live video stream, which you can also find with the chat room over at twitch.tv/Computer America. All that and more at our website. Check that out. Now, of course, why don't we go ahead and just get started with computer and technology news. And again, Dariush Derakhshani later on in the hour. So everyone, here we go. Okay, so I think for our first story is going to be this one. So I think I actually fall into this category too, and as per this article, a lot of people do. A lot of people listening to this and more. So this one comes to us from Gizmodo, and it's this nice little article about do not track. Think of it like do not call except for your browser. And just like do not call, well, looks like there's some controversy as to whether or not do not track actually works as a tool over the internet. So this by Miss Kashmir Hill, and yeah, do not track, the privacy tool used by millions of people doesn't do anything. And again, we're gonna have a link to this in the show notes. But to give you the gist of the article, when you go into the privacy settings on your browser, there's a little option there to turn on the do not track function, which will send an invisible request on your behalf to all websites you visit, telling them not to track you. Makes sense? Do not track tells other people who would track you to don't track me. So far, so good. A reasonable person might think that by enabling this might stop a website from keeping track of what you do on that site, or hey, social media, other things from allowing third parties to use your metadata / information. But according to a recent survey by the Forrester Research, a quarter of American adults use do not track to protect their privacy. And as Gizmodo kind of found themselves, about 9% of visitors have it turned on. So yeah, that's a good amount. 1 in 4 internet users in America have it turned on. That's a lot. That's millions of people. But here's the problem. And as the article says, we have bad news for you. It says that do not track is like it's like spray on sunscreen, a product that makes you feel safe while doing little to actually protect you. That's right. The do not track function, which is a simple check mark and set it and forget it, is not actively preserving your privacy. Who knew? They said that the do not track was first imagined a decade ago by consumer advocates and was going to be a do not call list for the internet, helping to free people from annoying targeted ads and creepy data collection. But here's the thing. Only a handful of sites actually respect the request, and the most prominent of which are Pinterest and Medium, saying that Pinterest won't use offsite data to target ads to a visitor who's elected to not be tracked, while Medium won't send their data to third parties. And again, to make it clear, these are not found within the options of these two services. No, this is an option within the browser itself. You can go to the settings, you can go to privacy, or I'm sure some other relevant category there. And there's an option to essentially flag yourself, your digital identity, flag yourself as do not track. And again, only Pinterest and Medium actually respect these. I'm sure there's many other smaller sites, but the vast majority of sites, and they say even including Gizmodo, who again receives about 9% of this kind of traffic, ignores it completely. To be clear, ignores it completely. Yahoo and Twitter initially said that they would respect it, only to later abandon it. The most popular sites on the internet, including Google, Facebook, and a lot of others, they never honored it in the first place. So it looks like this was something that privacy advocates and consumer advocate groups set up. Many of the browsers out there have turned it on, but then even the companies that actually produce these browsers, i.e. Google for Chrome and Safari for Apple and more, they don't actually respect it themselves, even though they include the option within their own browser. That's very key. So they said that from the Department of Irony, Google's Chrome browser offers the users the ability to turn off tracking, but as I just said, Google itself does not honor do not track requests. Much of this data is collected and of course is used for targeted advertising, selling to advertisers. It's just such a big way, and really sometimes for a lot of companies, the only way that they make money off of people, that you can easily identify those who don't want to be tracked, but there's no firm rule, law, legislation, or any kind of code of conduct that says that they actually have to honor this. They said that, and this is from a computer science professor at Princeton University, saying that, quote, "It is in many respects a failed experiment. There is a question of whether it's time to declare failure, move on, and withdraw the feature from web browsers." And saying that that's a big deal coming from Mayer. He spent 4 years of his life helping to bring Do Not Track into existence in the first place. And that's not even really it's not even really that big of a deal, because he might have advocated for it. He had ideals. He was trying to get something done, but that doesn't mean that he has to be the ultimate advocate for something that just isn't working. So, do not track doesn't even work. So, by comparing this to, the do not call list, the do not call list actually has some ramifications to it. Even though I know your number may be on the do not call list and you still get telemarketers, I know it's annoying, but there are actual penalties. If you can find these shell upon shell corporations' actual identity and you can actually get someone, then they can be fined up to $16,000 per violation. This is for violating the do not call list. Whereas for the do not track, again, there are no regulations to bite into anyone who actually tracks. So no reason whatsoever to honor these people. They are just like any other quote unquote customer or user that comes to your site. They said that, technologists quickly came up with the code necessary to say do not track. Not hard. So let's go ahead and skip through this article a bit. Very, very well researched. That's my way of saying long, but I think we're going to go ahead and edit here. We'll go with this last sentence. Until that happens, please know that if you turn on do not track, it's not doing anything to protect you unless you're surfing Pinterest or reading Medium while logged out. It's one thing to tell someone you want to be left alone, and it's another to get them to care. Very, very well said. And to really drive that last point home, I know that this columnist has said Pinterest and Medium, but again, it's while logged out. If you are logged in, then as far as Pinterest is concerned, they are still going to track you and see what you like, see what you pin, see what you do, share, whatever. They're going to try to enhance your user experience just like they would anyone else. But if you aren't logged in and you go there with a do not track sign, then they're going to be the oddballs on the internet community and actually not track your data. There you go. So there's that article. Very, very interesting. I mean, even I turn on do not track. I told others to turn on do not track, and really it just comes down to the fact that, well, you kind of expect something to do what it says it, or at least promises to, the entire reasons for its existence is to protect your privacy. And turns out it doesn't even do that. So that's very, very interesting to, of course, kind of take note of. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this next one. So lots of you out there, probably if you are, a couple of years older, mid-30s and up, odds are you have heard of the Palm Pre, or at least the Palm line of products. They were super popular, no getting around it. They were the predecessor to the smartphone as we know it. Until Apple came on the scene, you either had a flip phone or a Nokia, or if you were a business person, either a BlackBerry or a Palm Pilot, Palm Pre, Palm whatever. BlackBerry and Palm dominated the digital assistant or the personal digital assistant realm. Now, just when you thought that was dead, because hey, smartphones, why would you ever need anything else? Turns out Palm is in very seasonal timing, Halloween coming around, zombies are abound, and coming back from the dead. Palm, the innovative brand behind the PDA, is reborn, and it's coming out of the gate with a product that aims to create a whole new category of smart devices. Yeah, Palm has risen. Although I think it's from a venture capital group who essentially purchased all of the rights and the names and everything, and they're essentially creating all new hardware. So don't think this is simply the same company and it's kicking up production again. It's hoping to capitalize on the market, or at least the brand recognition, and put out an entirely new product. This, by the way, by Mr. Rhett Jones, Gizmodo once again. They said that simply calling the Palm, let's see. Actually, I might have a better. All right, no, we don't. All right, but we're gonna go this one and then a birthday. But okay, back to the story, saying that simply called the Palm, which is the new device from Palm, the Palm. This is a perfectly functional Android 8.1 smartphone with a custom skin, and it can run the full version of your favorite Android apps. It's hitting the market at a time when large phones have become the industry standard, but the point isn't to replace your enormous Galaxy or iPhone. And by the way, like they said, this is to create an entirely new category. If you're simply listening to the show instead of watching the show, there's a picture of the Palm here, and I think it's actually pretty aptly named because this thing could easily fit in the palm of your hand. Whereas many smartphones are either in, by now, like the 5.4 or 5.5 inch screen territory, some of them getting up to 6.5 inch screens. Keep in mind the tablet market starts at the 7-inch mark, and we're starting to get 6.5 inch screens. We're getting dangerously close to just too big. Well, the Palm is not going to have that problem. It is tiny, 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 but runs full-fledged operating systems. They said that it's essentially an alternative to a dumb phone or a smartwatch that gives you more features while hopefully discouraging you from staring at a screen all the time. Essentially, they're hoping that this is another connected device that you are going to buy, pay for, maintain, have a subscription to, and essentially you have your phone and now you have the Palm. It's not easy being an industry or trying to disrupt a very established industry. So let's read on. The most unique thing about the Palm is that you already have a smartphone and a cell plan with Verizon, or at least I read that wrong. The most interesting thing about the Palm is that you need to already have a smartphone and a cell plan with Verizon. So this is exclusive to Verizon customers. Palm is betting that there are enough people out there who are willing to pay $350. Palm, I don't think you're right on that one. Okay, willing to pay $350 to Verizon, which is again a Verizon exclusive device, and $10 per month addition to add this onto their existing phone plan. And Dennis Milosevsky, hopefully I said that right, or Milosevsky, there we go, is a former Samsung designer who's joined the industry veterans to relaunch Palm brand. He told Variety that the Palm is all about the on-the-go activities like listening to music, working out, or just enjoying your weekend. It's about technology receding. The problem I see with this is that it doesn't actually do what it's claiming to do. If it's hoping to disrupt smartphone usage, if it's hoping to help people stop using their phones as much, why are they selling this as essentially a replacement to an Apple Watch? They're selling this as a replacement to a smartwatch instead of a replacement to a cell phone. They said that one feature the Palm is pushing is Life Mode, where the device has an 800 milliamp battery, which, by the way, I think like an iPhone XS Max, whatever, has like a 4,000 milliamp. So this thing coming out at 800, it's going to have about 1/5 the battery life. But they say that because it's a smaller phone with less intensive specs, they claim they can still run 8 hours on a single charge. That's not great by modern standards, but the whole concept of this phone is to use it as little as possible. And looks like they're going to punish you if you use it more by its running dead. So when Life Mode is on, they said that the cellular and Wi-Fi radios will be disabled unless the screen is on, and the battery life should extend to a full day. This means that you won't receive calls or notifications unless you are actively using your phone. This is a mess of a product. If there are any reps out there listening to the show right now who work with the Palm or have any kind of palms in that particular pie, please feel free to come on the show and defend this. But and we're definitely going to reach out after this article. But man, to be honest, this is just such a bad idea for a phone and a phone replacement. So like I was saying, the screen size, nothing to shout about, is 3.3 inches. That's about half the size of of some of the larger phones out there, and it's just zero point 0.2 inches smaller than the original iPhone. And its specs are from a different era, packing 3 gigs of RAM, I think it's like a 3 or 4 generate. Yeah, no. I think Snapdragon's up to 8. So this might be like a 4 generation old processor and 32 gigs of storage. One retro feature that won't be coming back is the headphone jack. You get a single USB-C port with one virtual button. The headphones can connect via Bluetooth, and of course, you can swipe down from the screen to adjust the volume. Let's see. So 12 megapixel rear camera probably won't produce photos that impress, but may just get the job done. I think we're going to end this here. Last paragraph here. The real question is whether consumers will see the Palm as a better alternative to smartwatches in general. There were skeptics of the tablet when the iPad first launched, and few people these days question the device's usefulness. And 24% of US households have gotten on board with smart speakers. Palm has either seen the future or built a cheap phone that it can repurpose after users show no interest. We'll just say that the idea of holding something that feels like an original iPhone has a certain appeal. I gotta kind of disagree. So this has been a mess of this. Really, I think it's a company trying to utilize the Palm, or the Palm brand name, so Palm Pilot, Palm Pre, whatever, trying to take that, apply it to a company, a startup that is trying to do something disruptive, but at the same time is providing a product that is not actually asked for. So good luck, Palm. I hope that you and your venture capital buddies actually get something done, but yeah, not gonna hope for that one. So, like I said, after that article, we did have one birthday I want to get to, and then we'll let's see. I think we have time for like one more after this one, even. But I know that out there, a lot of you techies and a lot of longtime Computer America listeners, for the longest time, our most ardent, our most fervor-driven fans out there, they congregated not just in not just at Computer America, not just listening to the shows, but they congregated and talked amongst each other. We had like a special skin for it, but at its core, it was simply an internet relay chat. And to all of our fans and everyone else still using IRC, happy birthday, because IRC has turned 30. That's right, 30 years old. You didn't even know the internet was that old, but here we are. And we remember how it changed our lives. This is an article from Ars Technica, and yeah, they have some pretty cool kind of moments from all the different tech editors and different people from Ars Technica talking about how IRC really launched them into technology and showed them, hey, there are other people out there, and the internet can be used to connect people. But yeah, I think we'll just kind of leave it there. There's not really much to this other than the fact, again, IRC has turned 30 thanks to a Finnish computer scientist, and he was able to create the concept and get using it as a virtual workplace. And yeah, IRC turns 30. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Now, there's that one. Let's see. I think I had one more story I really wanted to get to, and then we'll, of course, hopefully by the half-hour mark, we'll have Dariush Derakhshani joining us once again. Let's see. So there were a couple of stories here. Let's talk about, let's see. Sorry for the delay, folks. I had one lined up, and then I lost it. Happens more often than you think. Let's talk about this one. Found it. Okay. artificial intelligence. In a lot of ways, it's a buzzword. If you go back a year and a half, anything with the phrase blockchain was booming. Like, people made a lot of money by simply just stating, we use blockchain technology. And investors would throw money at it because everyone assumed that the blockchain was the future. Don't get me wrong, anything cryptocurrency, blockchain related, there's a lot of very valuable tools in there. But there's no denying there is a lot of hype. Well, here we have it. This is, I think that this article has a bit of hype to it. I also think that there are very practical tools that can come from artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever you want to call it. And this is one of those practical tools, but the key phrase here, in the right conditions. Google AI, so this is from Google, can spot advanced breast cancer more effectively than humans. So this is by John Fingus, and if you kind of look at the image here, obviously this is someone's mammogram, and to the untrained eye, to someone who's not a doctor, you look at the left and it's pretty ambiguous. It's really hard to tell what's cancer, what's not. And at the same time, if you look at the image right next to it, it shows the Google artificial intelligence using all of the machine learning it's able to conjure up, and next thing you know, it highlights all of the cancer within the image with a 99% accuracy. Very impressive. Google has delivered further evidence that AI could become a valuable ally in detecting cancer. The company's research has developed a deep learning tool that can spot metastatic breast cancer with a greater accuracy than pathologists when looking at slides. But to be clear here, one does not replace the other. AI does not completely remove the idea of doctors double checking the work. It's simply a tool. It's a tool to be used in addition with more traditional means. But the team trained its algorithm to recognize the characteristic tumors using two sets of pathological slides, giving it the ability to spot metastatic cancer in a wide variety of conditions. The result was an AI system that could tell the difference between cancer and non-cancer slides 99% of the time, even when looking for extremely small bits of cancer that humans might miss. And really, again, if you look at this image, they show, I assume that, it's kind of highlighted in red, and a lot of it is centered around one central part. But then all around the image, there are little flecks of red, which which Google is identifying as, or at least, Google AI is identifying as more bits of cancer. Very, very easy to miss. Now, this immediate approach would, they said that the immediate approach would only have so much effectiveness in the field, since it would be looking for late-stage breast cancer where there's no known solution. It also has yet to be used in real-life clinical situations. However, the scientists note that the cancer is a common factor in most forms of this illness. It wouldn't take much to adapt the system to look for other tumors. If and when it's ready for practical use, it could be an extremely valuable tool. I think that, like I was saying at the beginning, and this the research paper that this is based off of and all that kind of stuff, it's really highlighting the fact that it says, hey, in the right situation, in the right circumstances, in the right lighting with perfect image and stuff like that, it's very accurate. But I'm assuming that any other unknown or unexpected or something that's a little bit unusual, that's where human doctors are going to start winning out once again. Because, hey, training off data sets, your result is only as good as your data set. Now, everyone, there's music playing in the background. We'll be right back. More Computer America, and hopefully Dariush Derakhshani here in just a moment. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And yeah, everyone, thank you for continuing on with us. If you missed any part of the show up until this point, feel free to check out the podcast, which is simply today's show in its entirety rebroadcast. Now, that being said, as was promised, we have the one, the only Dariush Derakhshani, our headliner, here with us now. And yeah, we're going to bring him on real quick and then get on with the show. So, Dariush, welcome back on to Computer America. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
You are sounding great, and yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks, thanks for joining us, and yep, hopefully all is well there. And you're ready to talk about some, last time you were on, we did a really good analysis of the, I keep on saying the GTX, the RTX, NVIDIA 2080 card, and this time, hey, it's processors. So, exciting time for new computer builds.
Yeah. I've been thinking about upgrading my computer for a little while. Just been sort of waiting for the right moment to do it. And I don't know. I'm looking at the 9900K and wondering if that's a good way to go. So I've been doing some reading and have seen some benchmarks and sort of get done and redone again. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, and of course, actually, just before we get started, of course, benchmarking. We're going to mention these, quite a few times throughout the show here as we, kind of go through this. And if you want to, kind of give an outline as to why benchmarking is so important, because before, or at least before they're actually released officially to members of the press or review or benchmarkers. The company puts out their own benchmarks, but those are to be taken with a grain of salt. Everyone waits for some very reputable benchmarkers to do it themselves. What are benchmarks? Why are they important? Why do you care about them?
Well, we need benchmarks to kind of figure out what it is that we're getting, and to be able to reliably and confidently compare hardware from all these different places. And even within a single family line, there's different chips, i3, i5, i7, i9, figuring out what the difference is between these in real world applications. Basically, how fast is my game going to run? How fast is my application going to run? How fast I'm going to be, rendering and editing video, things like that. So benchmarks, whether they're real world benchmarks or synthetic benchmarks, they help us figure out what is really going to happen when I spend that $500 to get that CPU or $800 to get that video card. So benchmarks are pretty important, and having them independently validated is important as well, because there's a lot of marketing and hype and things like that that goes into these things. So getting a reliable benchmark is definitely important. It's one of the things I look for when I'm looking to upgrade, and to see what I want to upgrade to, and if it's time, and how much money I want to spend on that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And those are going to be super important because, you said a couple $100 for a CPU, but I feel like those days are kind of gone. Like if you want like some really, really good CPUs, I don't know if just the technology that goes into them is upping the price, or the fact that, Bitcoin mining and things like that, other applications for, kind of the same market segment are pushing prices up. But some of these prices of the, and I think we're going to focus on the 9th gen Intel chips that Intel had just released. I mean, I think they're top of the top. Well, actually, they don't even give the price of the top of the top, but their second top of the top is just under $2,000. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people out there that need that kind of computing power. Professionals, studio people. It definitely is. There's definitely a market for it. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be making CPUs that expensive. But it may not be the majority of the market. It may not be the people like you and me. But it's important to have. For me, what I like to do is I like to try to find the best price to performance ratio. So I don't mind, and I'm lucky to be able to spend another $100 for CPU if I need to, but only if the price to performance pays off. So I'm getting the best for my money, and not necessarily just the flat out best.
Right. And in a lot of cases, these things are lasting you quite a while. So you're talking about you're thinking about upgrading your rig this year. When did you actually put this rig that you're currently using together?
This rig I put together when the Skylake 6700K was
so about 3 generations
popular. It's been a couple of years now. Yeah.
So about 3 generations. So about 3 years, maybe 4, depending on the timing. So this next upgrade, I'm assuming you're hoping to get about the same frequency, about maybe 4 years out of your next one as well. So, I mean,
yeah, I'm hoping so, and that's why I'm thinking about the i9 9900 and spending, because I spent I think about $350 for my Skylake CPU, the 6700K. So I could spend about the same for the 9700 if there is one. I haven't bothered to check. But I figure I'll spend another $150 or $200 and get the 9900, and maybe that'll last me another 6 months to a year longer.
Yeah.
Than this generation has.
So when we covered this when Intel first announced it, I think sometime last week, I had of course it was just kind of me waxing nostalgic by myself, but I was having a bit of a hissy fit over the fact that i7 up until this point has always had the or at least the language associated with an i7 has always been that it's been 8-core, 16-thread, hyper-threaded, activated.
Right.
It is what it is. You're talking about the Core i9. i9 was always it's kind of top of the line. I think the previous generation was 10-core, 20-thread. This time it's 8-core, 16-thread, and the i7, which again traditionally was 8/16, this is now 8 and 8. The only ones that have hyperthreading are the i9, the 9900K, and a couple i7s. I'm sorry, I'm looking at last generation. Last generation, the i7s did, but this generation, only i9 with the hyperthreading.
Yeah, and
What do you think about that?
and that's probably one of the reasons why I'd go to an i9 is to have hyperthreading. I do a lot of rendering, a lot of processing that way. For everyday use, I think 8 and 8 is probably just fine. But for what I'm doing, I think hyperthreading adds just a little bit more power to some of the things that I do. So it's worthwhile.
To me, it was more of, and again, the Hissy Fit was like, I think that a lot of people go into an i7 expecting hyperthreading. It's a known technology. It's been around for a long time, something that they can kind of expect. And then they switched it up so that it's only available through their quote unquote tippy top best of the best. And, through this new i9 that they introduced, I think either last gen or whatever. I feel like I wish that the best i7, I'm not saying that every i7 has to have hyperthreading. I just wish that one of the i7s would have hyperthreading. I get that this is probably a marketing thing more than a technology thing,
Yeah.
but it struck me the wrong way, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was one of the delineating factors between the i5 and the i7
Yeah.
was that the 7 could hyperthread. So now I'm not entirely sure what the difference would be between the 5 and the 7.
And by the way, it looks to be here the i5 caps out at 6 and 6 instead of 8 and 8.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, they could have just kept it as a 7, honestly, and just had the number of cores. So this is an issue where I think the branding and the marketing and all the model names are going to cause more confusion than they're going to create opportunity. So they need to tread fairly carefully. So it was always very clear, i3 to i5, big power difference, big clock speed and core difference. The 5 was a really good middle of the road CPU, just didn't have that sort of prosumer hyper-threading ability. The 7 did. So if you're a prosumer, you go with the 7, or an enthusiast, you go with the 7. So now it's like everybody's going to be going for the 9 in the enthusiast and the prosumer market. Who goes between the 5 and the 7? Like, so yeah, I don't know what that's going to do to the 8-core i7.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why.
I'm betting that if they kind of keep how they want it to, I'm betting the i3 goes away eventually, and the i5 becomes the new bottom floor. Not too much of a demand for basic two core processors anymore. That's a very limiting factor to a lot of machines. So
that's true.
Maybe
that's true. Yeah, I used an i3 for a media center in my living room, and very low power. I mean, it's already showing its age, but didn't really need much more than that. That's about the only thing I can see for them, aside from very low price sort of web surfing machines.
And I will say that one thing that the i9 does, and then I swear to God we're going to get into benchmarks, but one thing that introducing the i9 line does is that it makes a bit more of a steady slope. I think you've had some experience with the Xeon line of processors. Intel with the 9th generation introduced, not really until but I think it's like the X series of processors, which I think to a lot of people, if you know about Xeon processors, they're essentially taking some of the Xeon processors and rebranding them a bit to look like the I series of chips, but it's still a Xeon processor that you would still pay Xeon prices for. But again, it's marketing. They're trying to get prosumers to get it in their head that maybe you do want to spend $3,000 for a CPU, even though you've never had the option before.
Right. Yeah. It's I don't know who those users are aside from people who work at home. I would be one of those users if I had enough business that I need to do a lot more rendering on the side. I'd probably be going to Xeon. I mean, there's a lot of things that come with those extra powered processor, including error checking RAM. They're much more of a mission critical server based, workstation based stuff, which I don't really need at home so much. I don't.
And most people don't.
I mean, the 7's been fine. The 9 will be fine should I get it. So that's where I'm at.
And then I think on top of that, they have one more. Like I said, they didn't announce a price, but I think that's just Intel flexing their muscles over Ryzen and AMD, because AMD has the last couple of months been the best of the best when you want kind of multi-processor, multi-thread kind of deal. And Intel came out with one, I think, that was pushing the bounds. I think it had like 28 core, 56 thread or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Not feasible, like you said, for a lot of users out there. That's not going to be, really what you want. That's not, you're going to be spending money and it's going to be good, but it's not the best place to spend that money if you want performance out of it. So that's available, but let's go ahead, focus in on the i9. You found this article here from Forbes. We are going to include it in the show notes if anyone wants to look at the numbers themselves. But talk about their benchmarking that they did through Ashes of the Singularity. Really, personally, I don't think the game really matters all that much. I mean, sometimes they use things like Crisis, and I think Tomb Raider is a pretty popular one this year around. But essentially, it's any game with super intensive graphics and processes will work, as long as you just have a quote-unquote standard. So their standard is Ashes of Singularity, or of the Singularity. Talk about the benchmark and what they showed.
Well, the issue with this is funny, because I think the link for the website is actually giving me a 404 and won't come back up. But if you do a quick Google search on this, what happened is an independent
benchmarker
facility, I guess you want to call it, Principled Technologies. They went ahead and they did some benchmarking on the new i9, the 9900K, and they compared it to a couple of AMD chips, but unfortunately they left the AMD chips in a mode that disables its extra cores, basically. And whether they did it on purpose or not, really, I don't think really matters so much as it does the fact that somebody, luckily, picked up on it and called them out on it, and they redid the testing. And the speed differential between the 9900K, which is still like definitely the top processor in this lineup, was a lot smaller. That speed gap was a lot smaller compared to the AMDs running in the correct
so here on the chart here, they show game mode, which I guess would deactivate the other cores, presumably to save some of the thermal some of the heat that you would generate. And then they have creator mode, which would utilize all of them, if I'm not mistaken. So to give people an idea, looking at the chart here, in one instance, let's say the AMD Ryzen 7 2700X went from and this is the i9 has every performance increase, so don't get that wrong, but it went from a 57% differential to a 17%. So a much, much closer gap, if not completely blown out of the water. So.
Yeah, and it goes to the price to performance argument as well. The 9900K is definitely the better chip. It does faster. However, it is at a much higher price premium. So the speed difference that you see, the performance gains that you get, may not justify all that extra cost. And that's really where it's at. There's no dispute. It is the better of those chips for sure, but price to performance, that's where most people come in at, as opposed to just picking the top shelf CPUs. So that's where this, I'm really glad that they picked up on this, that they redid it with Principled Technologies. So people have a better information base to kind of base on, well, do I want to spend another, $200 some gap between the two to get 17% increase in average performance on these games? So the consumer really is the person here that's going to gain from accurate benchmarking. And
Right.
and stuff like that. And like I said, Principal Technologies, I don't think anybody really set out to do this purposely like this with this improper mode set on the AMD chip. And again, kudos to the journalists who found that out and got it fixed.
Yeah, and I mean, for anyone out there who's dealt with the BIOS or dealt with the motherboard and CPUs and things like that, these user interfaces, admittedly, they are getting better, but they can still be pretty complicated. You're looking at tools that the average consumer will never mess with. They want to push this to the best. They want to, and if it's just one tick mark that, or one kind of drop down menu that goes from game mode to creator mode, that's not even clear in itself, what the difference is. So very easy mistake to make.
Yeah, I would say. So it's kind of nice that the publishing industry, the journalism, has sort of corrected it. Intel came out with a statement that a lot of people are saying is kind of tone deaf. I mean, I get where they're coming from. It is what it is. We got numbers.
Yeah, I'm sure that Intel was very happy with the first set of numbers and less so happy with the second. But hey, that's why you have multiple benchmarkers that compare amongst themselves, and that's how you kind of build a reputation, is to be as accurate as possible, not as flattering as possible.
Yeah. And if you remember back before the Ryzen came out, the sort of the debate and the competition between AMD and Intel was nothing like it is today. And it just goes to show you how important it is for competing forces to go at each other, to get the best result and the best information and the best product out for the consumers.
Yeah, I mean, if these two chips that are comparable, if one was 50% over the other, for $160 more, we would not be talking about this at all, because it would not be they would not be comparable chips. But with a 10% difference, with with $160 on the line, there's something to talk about there. So
yeah, and for me, 100. I thought it was closer to 200, but even at 200, 160 sounds a lot better.
And by the way, everyone, I think the i9, and I just googled this here, i9 9900K coming in at $488, whereas the 2700X list price is coming in at $329, so $330 versus $490. Okay. So
yeah, no, that for me is enough. There's enough performance gain for me to justify it for the kind of work that I do.
Right.
Is to get that i9. So now I just have to justify it with the wife.
That might be, well, hey, just go to her, show her all the benchmarks and be like, and just explain it. And I'm sure she'll be good to go.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I'm sure. So let's see, there's that one. And let's see, I think that was about all I want to mention with that. Although, if you wouldn't mind, I found this other article here. I'll probably send you a link to it right now. But to match your new computer build, let's see, let's pull up the right thing. And let's see, messages go right about here. To go with your new computer build, I know that you have special recommendations that you need for, for your, your job, color accuracy, refresh rate, things like that, and all that good stuff. But because we were talking about hardware, I wanted your ideas on what I'm noticing, because I think Samsung put one out a little while ago. I think LG has, might have one as well. The idea of not just multiple monitors, but a single ultra wide monitor. How do you feel about these things?
That's pretty cool. I'm going to tell you that I do 2 monitors across. When I was reviewing the HP curved, I think it was a Z38C. I really like the fact that I didn't have a gap in between the left and the right side of the screens like I do when I've got 2 screens up. There's that gap,
right? The
bezel in between. So this is basically just taking 2 monitors and welding them side by side. I think that's pretty cool. I'd have to take a closer look at it. The whole curved thing, I'm not 100% convinced on. It really depends how close you sit to it and how much that curvature is. but yeah, no, I'd have to get it in front of me and take a look. But I really did like that HP Z38.
Right.
That was a really, really nice screen. 4K across, but not the equivalent 4K vertically, which is a little bit of an issue. I think this is the same. It's only 1440 vertical as opposed to being a 2160 vertical, which is full 4K
Yeah.
vertical, which for me would be kind of an issue because I've been doing a lot of 4K work in some commercials and stuff. So it would be hard for me to justify being able to look at things on a screen like this
Right.
for the work that I do.
Okay. But obviously, if you're multiple monitors and this is for maybe office workers or people who stare at these monitors and they don't want that seam. Although I will say real quickly, do you recall what Republic of Gamers kind of put out? I'm gonna send you another link here. I don't know. I'm having you click all the links. Republic of Gamers set out this product at CES last year that did away with bezels, and I thought that was a pretty cool technology. If anyone out there is dealing with the same little pet peeve.
Yeah, I think they're using some sort of optical trick at the corners here, sort of.
It kind of it's a piece of LCD, and it kind of repeats what would be at the edge of your screen naturally, and so there's a little bit of distortion, but it essentially you're right, it's a trick to make it look seamless.
Right. Yeah, for me that's a deal breaker for sure.
Obviously.
I can't. That's why curve monitors I'm not entirely sold on yet. The idea that there might be some distortion doesn't work because literally, I'm working on a commercial right now where it's imperative that the product be absolutely vertical, and if it's even off by, a tenth, a half a degree of rotation, you can tell. So I can't tolerate any sense of distortion in my images. So this sort of thing for me, no. Now, if I'm playing Rainbow Six, heck yeah, absolutely. But if I'm working After Effects, for example, in my comps, not so much, because I'd be afraid it would also be distorting the color and the tonal brightness as well. So professionally, not so much.
Right. Now, speaking of professionally, and we're going to throw this up here full screen. Anyone out there watching the video portion, check it out. We'll have a link to the video in the show notes. Dariush, we have like a minute left. I just caught that. But I'm showing the video of the Chaos Group demos Project Lavina, which is a real-time ray tracing. Anyone out there want a good breakdown of what ray tracing is and its promises, check out our last show that Dariush was on. We really covered it very, very well. Talk about this video and what really struck you about this tech demo.
Well, I've known the guys at Chaos Group for a while, and I'm a big fan and user of V-Ray, their rendering software. So they've been working on real-time and GPU-based rendering for quite a long time, and they've got some of the best brains working on it. So it's nice to see that they're using the RT engine to be able to push it. I would love to see V-Ray engines in games and in VR and AR and stuff like that. So I think this is a really good first step. But, as you said, we only have a little bit of time. So maybe we can hit back on this the next time I'm on.
We will have to do that. And a couple other topics that are in the show notes. We'll get to them next time as well. And just looking at that video just wrapped up there. There's always one little bit about these tech demos, and it's like you can kind of see some distortion or some kind of pixelation as you kind of zoom out, but otherwise that was better than anything I've seen in a video game. That was gorgeous. So
yeah, no, it's pretty clean, and I definitely look forward to talking more about it next time.
Absolutely, and there's music playing in the background. That means we are just about done. Dariush, thank you so much for coming. I know that you only had a little bit of time, but we appreciate that you did. We'll catch
My
you here
pleasure.
next month. And anyone, if you want to, see what he has to offer, he has a website, kush3d.com. But you can also find him on Twitter, Dariush Derakhshani, and we'll have links to that in the show notes. So, Dariush, have a great day. Thank you so much.
You as well. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Everyone else out there, check out computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find anything and everything with today's show. And looking forward to catching you there. Coming up soon will be a couple of reviews we are working on. They'll be posted here shortly, and including a triple monitor mount, as well as a few other products. We have a brand new review up there about a drone that we got our hands on, and much more. But until next time, catch us here tomorrow on the Computer America Show when a whole new show. Everyone, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.